When working on a construction site, it is important that you always have the appropriate PPE in relation to the work that you're going to be doing on site. Firstly, I will need the correct type of pants or overalls to protect my legs. Secondly, I will use a suitable jacket to protect my arms and my upper body. Once I've put my jacket on, it is important that I always close my jacket up so that I have no loose hanging clothes that could get entangled in equipment that I'm using on site. This is my full personal protective clothing that will protect my arms and my legs. Moving on, secondly, I need to make sure that my feet are also protected on site, as I'll be working on site for the whole duration of the day. Even though the shoes that I have on are comfortable, they do not have the right protection, such as my safety boots, which have the appropriate soles at the bottom to protect me from nails sticking up, and also a steel toe cap to prevent hard objects from hurting my feet when they fall onto my shoes. Always make sure that you have the correct size of safety boots and that you tie them properly so that they are secure on your feet. If I'm working on a construction site where there is a risk of objects falling on my head or overhead cranes, I need to make sure that I protect my head by using a hard hat. Before using my hard hat, I need to make sure that it's adjusted properly so that it fits snug on my head and that there's no risk that it might fall off. When I'm also working on site, depending on what I'm doing, I might need some protection for my hands. Therefore, I need to use the appropriate type of gloves for the work that I'll be doing. Lastly, on a construction site, there's a risk of dust and debris going into my eyes, so I need to make sure that I use the appropriate eye protection to keep my eyes safe. This is a standard attire for working on a construction site and will depend on the type of work that you are doing.
This is the material list that we needed when we were doing Mama Tahiti's installation. The things that we needed the PEX pipe. The PEX pipe that is needed to transport water to and out of the house. It was 10, 20 millimeters that we have needed. Then we needed the copper pipe tubing. The copper pipe tubing, the class 1, that could be easy to bend. It was 15 millimeter in diameter. And we also needed the thread tape. The thread tapes also needed when you want to fit female couplings and male couplings, so to make sure that the fittings does not leak. And we needed the flash bands. Whenever we have to make the holes on top of the roof, we must make sure that the holes are watertight. We also needed the 2 flash bands. And we also needed the typical of a tape. The tape that we needed was called a bib tape, a chrome-plated tape, so that the water, when it comes out hot, it can be supplied to Mama Tahiti's house. We also needed the wall plate band. The wall plate band was also needed to make sure that every timber that must be fitted on the correct way. This is the wall plate band that we needed. And we needed the holder pads. Holder pads we needed to make sure that the pipes, when supplying water into the house, they are not sagging, and so they are properly secured to the roof and to the wall. These we needed the typical type of holder pads. Because we needed the 2 types of holder pads, 22 millimeter and 15 millimeter, differentiating the type of pipes that we were using. We also needed the reducers. The reducers we needed because when we're using 22 millimeter and 15 millimeter, at the throw off points where the water is going to be drawn, when the water is going to be drawn at the taps, it's going to be 15 millimeter. That's why we have to need the reducer. That was one reducer that we used. And we also needed hurricane brackets. Hurricane brackets were needed when we're doing the support beams on the inside of the house. We needed the 6 typical hurricane pens there. And we also needed the timber. The timber, when we want to strengthen the roof, we want to make sure that the roof is not leaking when making the nails. The timber that we needed was 114 by 38 millimeters. We needed the 6 millimeter length there. And we also needed the nails. When strengthening the roof on the inside, these were the nails that we needed. We needed 4 millimeter inch nails to make sure that the roof is strengthened. This is the 4 millimeter inches came in a packet. It's so very important to make sure that you test the equipment before you go up to the roof. It is very important to have the safety personal protective equipment when doing any construction work. It's very important to have the helmet, safety helmet. And you must also have the safety goggles whenever you are doing anything in the safety so that your eyes may not get any attached. And you must have the safety work suit whenever doing any type of the pipe work. And you must also have the safety gloves. And it's also very important to have safety boots on your feet. Whenever you're working at any height, you must make sure that you have safety harness. Important tools that you must have in your toolkit when you are doing the solar water heating installation is the electric drilling machine with mason repeats are so very important when you're making holes onto the wall. And ratchet socket spanners. Ratchet socket spanners are so very important when tightening any type of nuts and any type of nuts when you are installation. Shifting spanners and adjustable shifting spanner, it's so very important whenever you are loosening or tightening any types of compression type fittings. Screwdrivers. Screwdrivers are also very important. It could be a star or it can be a flat screwdriver. The spirit level. The spirit level is used to level out your pipe so that everything is so very level. The pipe cutter, it's so very important when you're cutting any type of material. It can be PEX pipe or a copper pipe cutter, not using an hacksaw. A measuring tape. A tape measure is very important when you want to measure any type of distances on each type of pipe work. It's so very important. Utility knife. It is so very used to cut when you are cutting typical of PEX pipe. It's so very important to cut with any type of cutting tools. You can use a utility knife. Then you can have a water pump pliers. When you want to fasten compression fittings, you must hold on the other end and you must fasten using what a shifting, and water pump pliers is used to hold that type of chemical of fittings.
In today's video, we will be illustrating some of the tools that are used by a solar installer when doing an installation. Some of the tools that we use is a tape measure for measuring out and making sure that we work accurately. We also use a builder square to make sure that our alignment is perfectly square when we are marking out. We also use a protractor and a sliding bevel to check the inclination of the roof. A spirit level is used to check horizontal surfaces and also vertical surfaces, whether they are plumb. A scriber is used to mark out, as well as a pencil that is used for marking where you need to cut. Chalk line also used for marking out position of where we need to install. A hacksaw is used to cut metal components. And a pipe cutter is used for cutting copper tube before installation. A shifting spanner is used to fasten nuts and bolts. A water pump pliers serves the same purpose. Screwdrivers are used to fasten or loosen screws. A hammer is used to nail in nails or remove them. A socket set is used in conjunction with a ratchet or a torque wrench to fasten brackets onto the roof. As with all tools, when they are used, there is a place to store them, and they should always be stored in that place after they have been cleaned. In preparation for the installation of a solar thermal system, it is always important to refer to the manufacturer's manual. This will ensure that you are able to check all of the components that are necessary to complete the installation and make it safe. Some of the components include the members for the main structure of the installation. You will then also have the vertical support and then the cradle that will eventually house your cylinder. The steel straps over here will ensure that your cylinder stays in position inside of the cradle, and we will also have piping sections that is included as a standard part of your kit. With these piping sections, you will have your basic fittings that is needed to complete the system. They include elbows, stop ends and couplers, and 3 valves. This valve is a maintenance-free valve and saves you the hassle of a perishing washer. This one over here is a drain cock, which will ensure that cold water can be fed into the cylinder, and when maintenance needs to be done, you can drain the water through the drain cock. Lastly, we have our thermostatic mixing valve, which will allow us to control the temperature of the water that comes from our cylinder. Cold water and hot water will enter from both sides of the valve. After the temperature has been set to a safe degree, the water from the cylinder will then be able to be drawn by the consumer from your draw-off point or tap. In the kit, we also have various nuts and bolts. These are used to complete and fix all of the members safely together. Our hot water cylinder that we are using always has to be SABS tested so that we are sure that it has been quality tested and is safe for our consumers to use. We then furthermore have our solar collector, which, as you can see, always has to be in the correct orientation to complete our solar installation. These are the basic components that we will need to start our solar thermal installation.